In formal policy, there's been very little change. Formal policy looks a lot like the 1950s looked in China. There's still the 5 official religions that there have been throughout almost the entire communist period. So temple religion is still superstition, technically. Christianity has to be organized through these official government branches, as does Buddhism and Taoism and Islam. So yeah, it looks like nothing has changed. That's misleading. That's deeply misleading. The largest general change is the huge increase in personal space, a kind of freedom, but not political freedom, but definitely a kind of real freedom, and that includes religion. At the moment, I think the party is actually thinking hard about what its religious policy should be. So although the official line hasn't changed much, unofficially, there's clearly much more openness. So for instance, after the terrible earthquake in Sichuan this year in 2008, a lot of religious organizations were allowed to give help. That itself isn't as significant, I think, as the fact that the government allowed the press to cover this, which is to say, in some sense, it was being given a blessing. Even something like Tibetan Buddhist monks offering funeral services for the dead was covered in the media. That's a really interesting development, which indicates a kind of openness that we certainly didn't see 10 or 15 years ago. In fact, my guess is that the policymakers are thinking right now hard about what kind of policy they should have, that there's a recognition that current policy is just not adequate to what's happening in Chinese society. So there's a possibility, a real possibility of greater openness. Of course, there's a real possibility of greater repression, too. It's not what I would predict, but I think there's a lot of thought going on right now. You know, what do we do about Christianity? Is it okay what's happening? Should we allow the so-called underground church to be more above ground so that we can register it and keep an eye on it officially and decriminalize it? There's always an argument for decriminalizing activities. The same for, you know, should we, a couple of years ago, there was a lot of talk about recognizing a 6th religion, which would be popular religion. I think right now they won't do that, but instead they seem to be recognizing a lot of popular religion as an intangible cultural heritage. So that's another way of legitimizing what people are doing. It will have some influence on how people practice their religion to some extent, but of course any government policy will have some kind of influence. You know, American tax policy influences how American religion is constructed. So I think we're at a moment of flux, and I think in reality, we've already seen 20 years of major changes in religious political practice, even if the official policies have not changed so much.